We are honored to be at the WesBank head office in Joburg, and with us is the new CEO of WesBank, Mr. Msibi. I'm sure the first couple of weeks or months that you've been in charge of WesBank has it been a joyride, or has been like kind of swimming? You mentioned that they're swimming with the crocodile.
Yeah, no. Look, I think firstly, thank you for the opportunity. Greetings to everyone who tune in to your show. Look, it's been a very interesting 3 months, very, very challenging. The market is tough. Unfortunately, the changes, on my interest rates make it that much more volatile for customers, difficult to make long-term decisions.
Now, coming back to the industry, we've got COVID-19, we've had so many interest rates going up, What is the industry outlook at present from your perspective?
So coming out of the COVID, I think the world in totality has been in turmoil, if I can use the word. I think, for the two and a half years where people weren't really traveling, we've noticed the customers' balance sheet and income statements have become a little bit stronger than what they were going into COVID because of savings, no travel. That does not take away the fact that I think while we have seen a lot of fellow South Africans losing jobs, we are starting to see a recovery. So there's an improvement. Even if you look at the last quarter, there was again an improvement in terms of the number of people employed. So I think statistically there's an overall improving landscape, which I think has helped the discussions leading up to pretty much where we are with the interest rates as you talk about. Now, if we take a view of the next half, our expectation is that we will continue to see an increase in interest rates. At the moment, our forecast is that we'll probably be about 25 to 50 bps above where we were when we went into COVID. So we're effectively normalizing to a pre-COVID situation with a stronger balance sheet. Then we expect in 2024, which is pretty much, as I say, we expect things to actually come off. Actually expecting we should probably see a reduction in interest rate.
Looking at what you've said, you've mentioned the interest rate, you've mentioned the supply chain being challenged with what's happening obviously internationally. What is the impact to the customer that is either wanting to buy a vehicle or that is trying to survive with maintaining their current vehicle?
Yeah. So I think the first and probably I suppose the most obvious impact is the fact that it has impacted demand and supply. So, for the last, call it, 2 years, we've seen a significant drop-off in the supply of new vehicles into the country. And that has resulted in, significantly higher increases, or rather a much more aggressive vehicle price inflation on used cars. So we've seen people being able to purchase cars at much higher prices, but it also worked to the counter where people were able to sell their cars at a higher price. So there was a bit of an offset. The fact that people had not, of course, then traveled through COVID, we've equally seen that people have effectively been able to keep their cars for longer, and mileage, the issue of mileage has also come off, in that people's cars, because they've traveled less, they're of course in much better condition. So people are not necessarily selling off as what they did before. So they're actually buying extended warranties and out of warranty plans. And then I suppose the other piece is we've got a lot of manufacturers that are importers in the country. Even the local ones have to import certain of their parts. So if the rand weakens, the truth of the matter is the price of the vehicle will go up. Yeah, so I suppose we've seen an aggressive run on vehicle price inflation, especially on the used side, but we're starting to see that normalize with stock on new vehicles now coming back online. We're seeing better mileage on vehicles, or better quality cars that have kind of gone into the market. And then I think what we're also starting to see is that we're starting to see a much more diverse range of brands coming in. So there are newer brands coming in, which with a call it a more aggressive price point relative to some of what their peers would have been for the same derivatives, which is now starting to also inject different level of competition.
Taking the point about the industry dynamics, Last week there was Auto Week,
Yes.
Which was held in Kalami, a first of its kind. I know WesBank was part of the whole event. Can you give us an insight in terms of what happened and what key resolutions came out of the whole event in terms of the industry?
Yeah, no, that was I think it was a pinnacle moment for the industry. We attended the 4-day conference as an industry. We participated beyond our own brands as banks. We were there as industry participants and not as competitors, which I think is very critical for the long-term sustainability, because then I think we start to address and resolve issues, common issues that affect the industry versus each institution. Key topics there, I mean, of course, there was a lot of debate around electric vehicles. What is the policy on electric vehicles, and ultimately, how we as a country respond to global policy changes. And I think Minister Patel gave commitment at that forum that this is a priority topic, and government is looking into it, and hopefully within the first quarter of next year we'll have a lot more clarity in terms of the directive there, which was great. A lot of debate around localization, and I think this was a matter that we spoke I think at length about, the importance of actually driving localization and making sure that that is also linked to the topic of improving the rate of employment in the country. Big debates around transformation at an industry level, and I think there were very deliberate commitments equally made. And I think NAMSA and colleagues with the manufacturers also spoke largely around the importance of this transformation fund that has been set up, and really pleading for people to really start to access the transformation fund because it's there. And I think what was also interesting to see was we also were able to witness certain beneficiaries of empowerment financing that were also part of the delegation that attended, that were showcasing, they were exhibiting. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on transformation, but I think there's a lot that's happening that's maybe also not coming through. So I think there's also maybe a second part where we need to think about how do we start to showcase these small businesses that will require all our support, private sector, public sector, consumptions, to really start to plug in to enable them to succeed. And if I just think about some of the stuff that we are doing in terms of that piece is, we are creating pieces such as what we call the marketplace on our channels. And the marketplace really is quite simple, is where we take people that are banked, in our case, because we are part of the FirstRand group. We are banked with FNB, and we say advertise your business on the marketplace. Where there's a demand for such a product, we will be able to matchmake you. It ended off with the awards, which were powered by WesBank as well. So we also sponsored that, which is very important for us as a brand, to participate in initiatives that recognize and reward excellence in the industry. So I think on the issue of EVs, why is this important is that I think it was very clear, even with the discussions we had with, the representatives of government who were present, is that there is a full appreciation of the criticality and the importance of the contribution of the automotive industry, being over 8% of GDP, and that's only at a primary level. I mean, this excludes secondary and tertiary contribution. So it's a significant contributor to GDP. The problem we have is that 60% of what is locally manufactured has to be exported. Right, has to be exported. Now, the host countries where we would be exporting to have already put dates or timelines wherein they are saying, from 2030, from 2025, they will not be accepting ICE vehicles, which may have a massive implication for manufacturing, for local manufacturing, and where those plants then ultimately have to be located. And we've seen that there's been a surge of interest upper north in the continent, where we started to see that they're showing a lot more interest. Ghana is showing interest. Nigeria is almost been online. There's a lot of countries, Egypt, and so on and so forth. So I think across the number of geographies where there is a capability and a potential to be able to participate in manufacturing, we've got competition. And I think if we are going to be very serious about South Africa being a part of this this topic of localization and becoming a manufacturing hub to deal with the issue of unemployment, I don't really think we've got a choice because the absence of a decision may have far-reaching ramifications. So that's on the issue of that, and I think the minister understood that, and so did the participants who attended to represent the respective pods of government from local to provincial. And then on the issue of transformation, I think I did touch on it, that there is a transformation fund that's been set up.
Mr. Msibi, I think as a closing question for me, it's to say you've been in this position not for long, but and one would hope there's a very bright future going forward. What is your vision in terms of WesBank going forward? I mean, you mentioned EVs, which is going to have an impact in terms of financing. Guaranteed future value, that also has an impact in terms of how we're now going to finance, an electric vehicle, but also looking at the industry. Where do you see WesBank, and where do you want to put WesBank going forward?
I mean, I think there's no question about the fact that WesBank is an established player in the markets where it participates. And that's very difficult when you take over a humming business because, how do you change it? But I think everything that we are talking about and the timing for me creates a very unique opportunity to say we are a strong finance business. But the future of this business cannot be only in finance. It's got to be across the ownership value chain. And so you ask me about my vision. My vision is when WesBank can be a partner, mobility partner for life. And so that effectively talks to finance being but part of one of the things that we do. How do we help you buy your car at the right price? How do we make sure that we can connect buyers and sellers through a marketplace? How do we bring other aspects of the ecosystem closer to the customer at a well-negotiated price? Tires, insurance, windscreen. Through currently the eBucks rewards program, we are already making fuel cheaper. So we want to really talk about bringing down the total cost of ownership. Because we understand the importance of mobility, but we also understand the cost of mobility. And I think we are in a unique position in South Africa that the transportation system is not necessarily as integrated and as effective, but people still need to move around. So we've got a very, very critical role to play to also equally partner in making sure that those pieces work. And then I think lastly, if I can see, or rather if I can be able to hand over the organization in a position where it's equally we've got the leadership being a representative or representation of the demographics under the span of transformation. That's big for me, because I think we've got young people that are coming through. I'm young myself, and I think it's an opportunity really just to accelerate growth and development while we transform. So that when we think about WesBank into the future, as I said, it must be a partner for life, but it must be one that you can interact with through any channel at any hour to make any change, but ultimately still feel that if there is a need to be able to require help, we are there for you. So we want to be the heartbeat of this mobility topic.
Mr. Msibi, thank you for the time. That was Mr. Msibi, the new CEO of WesBank. And for the customers out there that are within the WesBank group, I think the exciting times are ahead. And again, thank you so much for the time. And we'll see you. Like you said, you're fighting for a living now. Hopefully we'll see you in a year's time, and then we'll have even much better prospect in terms of what has happened in the industry.
Thank you.
All right.
Wow, that was a very informative interview with Usbonelo Msibi, CEO of WesBank. I mean, we are so privileged to have all these icons on iMoto on TV. What a lovely show.
It was. We've learned so much. Safundi Mali, Sahamba iMoto, It's been an amazing one.
And it's still going to be. Until next time.
Asambeni.